Good afternoon, friends. Steve Benoon here with Israeli News Live. Today is September the 30th, 2025. This year is rapidly going out. And of course, the subject that just doesn't seem to get out of the headlines, but quite frankly, Charlie Kirk does deserve the truth. And all the conspiracy theories, and granted, some of the conspiracy theories we've contributed to ourselves, but we're trying to get to the truth of this matter. And that's what we're after. We're not just after anybody that would accept the mainstream narrative of what's going on. Of course, if it were 100% true, if this guy right here, Tyler Robinson, really was the guy behind Charlie Kirk's death, we would want that to be just as well. We do know that undoubtedly, allegedly, he was on the roof, although these tight jeans that he's wearing, there's supposed to be a 30-06 stuck in there somewhere. But, when he jumps and he hits the grounds and his legs spring like springs, well, the gun should have broken half. But then again, as the Navy SEALs that shared their video, that backpack that he's wearing there, you couldn't break it down and make it fit in that bag if you wanted to. So, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work, friends. And we need to get to the truth of this matter. We don't just need any type of opinion out there of what people might think there. Uh, I want to really give a great thumbs up for Project Constitution with Colin here. He and I were on the phone last night after he's made a couple of more bombshell discoveries, and maybe that's the wrong word to use here on YouTube, but I don't mean it like that. But amazing discoveries. Colin, who is a former sniper for the Marine Corps, who has made more discoveries in this case, I think, than anyone has. But we were on the phone last night, and his latest discovery, because a cartridge from a semi automatic weapon, he caught it on camera falling down inside the tent. Then, as he shared that with me, I looked up that information. As I began to look at it, I noticed something that that Colin had not caught. And that was, it appeared to me that there was a weapon or a scope or something that was sticking through that tent up there. We sat for probably an hour discussing it back and forth. I talked to him about how it looks like that the shell is not ricocheting, but rather caught inside the tent, slides down and falls out. During the night, a young lady comes up with a theory that I think is probably the most accurate I've heard yet. And I'm going to go through this step by step, starting with all the information that we have discovered that seems to be more credible than any of the information as of yet. Now, I first shared with you up here when I showed up here that Charlie Kirk deserves justice, um, or excuse me, deserves the truth. This is the famous bullet captured in the air that was done by Colin on Constitution on his channel there. And I'll share that with you again so you can see that. It's right there above the phone of Frank there. And keep in mind, it's the black shirt in the background that captures that still framed image like that, but it doesn't mean that it's way out there. No doubt it's much closer. And then within the fraction of a second of that thing captured there, Charlie is hit. We will do everything we can to make sure that we don't show any type of images in this video here that would be disturbing. We're just clearly showing the events before they happen here. It was also in Frank's phone that captures what I believe to be an infrared laser. It bounced off his phone just before going on to Charlie's back of his head or the back of his neck. There's different ideas of where he may have been hit. I've suggested either the neck or even back behind his ear, and it may have been behind his ear as we begin to examine this. And getting away, like I said, from the conspiracy of Tyler Robinson. I feel like Tyler has really become another Oswald. There have been some suggestions that he is a asset for the CIA or trained in some kind of program for that. Maybe he did. Oswald did as well. And I do believe that Oswald was set up for that. He uh, definitely claimed his innocence, as does this young man. And if he really did jump off the roof, and maybe he did, maybe he was running, maybe that's why he looked so guilty. But you got all kinds of people running out of there, even with handguns in their hands and stuff. Well, Utah is an open carry state. So I wouldn't doubt it a bit in the world. Now, I want to just highlight this information because to me it is so powerful. This was another one that Cullen did on Project Constitution. He actually paid and received. He's the guy that did this, by the way. He got the transcripts from the police, and he was the one to first release this that there was not going to be an autopsy. He puts in there too. He shows you clearly at the very beginning that according to under Utah Code 268-8-205, the medical examiner assumes jurisdiction over a deceased body upon notification of investigation if the death appears to meet certain criteria relevant to homicides. This includes, and it gives all the different things, including gun violence, gunshots, etc. We know too well that that's not going to happen necessarily. They do whatever they want to do. I want you to listen, though, as we play Colin's where he released this information here on his channel and Project Constitution. He's also got a YouTube channel. I will put Colin's information, both his YouTube and his Twitter account. Twitter's where he's most popular and well known at, in our description below, so you can review all of his information. Amazing, amazing young man. Listen into this.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add a step to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
Yeah, 287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got on the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to Signature and to bring in a car over here for agreement.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at Signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Duncan right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay.
So, I mean, things can't get stranger. No autopsy? I mean, if anything, an autopsy, if this front part of the wound on Charlie Kirk is indeed, as it appears to be, an exit wound, that would exonerate Tyler. And you don't do an autopsy, you just take somebody's word for it. Do you know how much evidence was suppressed on JFK's assassination? And Charlie Kirk, you have to keep in mind, Charlie posed a great threat because one country in the Middle East there wanted to make sure that TPUSA continued its very strong pro-Israel influence across all college campuses. And Charlie had begun to move away from that. Not that he didn't support Israel, but he began to challenge the narrative. He began to suggest things. Could have been a stand down on October the 7th. He suggested that. He says to Megyn Kelly, my integrity is being called into question. Now they've concreted the entire area in where he was once sitting at now. They did a lot more than just that. And by the way, this pipe and that little pillar there holding up the causeway there happened to be where the tent was almost at the middle of that. And the tent was very close to that wall right there, top of the tent at the top of that. And they started doing some repairs there to the roof of that. Wonder why? Maybe we can get to the bottom of this. Let's take a look at some things here. Let's first go back just for a moment here. And I got to make sure that this does not start. This here is Frank's phone. This is when I first released. I happened to capture that right there. And I happened to capture when a laser hit and reflected off of Frank's phone, right? It's going to move slightly up as it's headed towards Charlie. And then suddenly Charlie is hit. I actually released that myself when I found it one night, and I forget what that I named the YouTube video, but I'll put that in the description below for you. Not long, and Colin and myself were, I think we were already in touch with one another because I'd sent a message to him, and then I think I sent him that video when I first did that. Then comes this video here, and I just want to make sure it does not start moving. Okay. And this here, you can see the bullet right there in the air. Colin catches that right after I caught the laser. He caught that in mid-frame. Just by slowing things down, caught that in mid-frame. So now we had two evidences. We had a laser, which put the shooter somewhere behind Frank, and a bullet right there traveling. We don't know if it's coming from back from the right of Charlie or if it's coming from behind Charlie. All kinds of speculations, though. Sign movements, gestures, things like that just before Charlie is actually shot. And I can play that. I'll back it up just to show you those sign gestures. Even the guy in the green right there, I thought initially maybe he was the guy. But when you get a bullet way over there, no, he's definitely not the guy. How could he be the guy if the bullet's over there in between Frank and Charlie? The bullet doesn't go from him in behind Charlie and then back to Charlie. No, it can't go there. And of course, the guy that does this hand gesture, whoa, sorry, I don't want to catch that. It doesn't show the hand gesture in this video here. But none of that, it's just not possible. He couldn't have done it. And then you might think, well, the camera that was in behind him. I actually listened today to Rose, who's on with me, and John Moore on his program. They were trying to say it's a 3D camera. Well, in no disrespect, I appreciate Rose's opinion on that, but even after the camera was taken down, Charlie's body was carried out. You couldn't 3D the body going out to the car to be put in the car. That couldn't be 3D'd. But some would argue that there's no blood out there because they see it coming heavily out of Charlie when he's first shot. The reason you don't see blood going out there, a blood trail, there would be little tiny sprinkles that would not be visible to your naked eye. But once an individual is deceased, the blood is not just pouring, especially if you're holding them in such a way and they're trying to compress his wound to start with. That really kind of puts it to a very small trickle at that point there. Secondly, there was a camera guy, and I've got the footage of this. I'm going to show it to you in a moment there. And I think this was after the camera was removed, comes around, or even if it wasn't removed, doesn't matter. And you see the blood on the table there where Charlie first fell over. You can't 3D image that. All right. So I just completely don't agree with that theory. So, and the guy in front of Charlie. Well, even if he had that little handgun little thing that they show that does that, you're not going to put a hole in the front of Charlie's neck the size of a quarter with a little cap pistol. I mean, I don't mean to degrade that, but it's just really what it is. But then Colin comes out with this one here. Charlie was shot from behind with an Israeli corner shot. I agree with him on this, and I'm going to show you the girl that he plays her video of in just a moment, what she has to say on there. But I want you to look at this because this is what I caught myself. And after Charlie and I talked last night, then he produced this video here. Okay, let's take a look at this. There's the camera. We're up the top of the tent here. Look right there. See that rail that comes across there? That rail. But then there's this open spot and there's little round things sticking up there. Now, as you watch, let me see if I've got it slowed down. I want to make sure we're slowed down to be able to see this properly. I'm going to go to half speed here. Okay, now he's going to kind of zoom in on that. So watch what happens here. Watch real. Okay, there it is right there. See the bullet fall there, or the shell casing. What you see right there? Notice I'm trying to move it at the same time. It almost comes out right there, and then it kind of rolls, as you can actually see it roll underneath that tarp and then comes down. All right, that's what it does. And then comes down. It got captured in there and then fell through. This is what actually takes place. So then you're saying to yourself, well, gosh, what the heck kind of weapon is that? Well, Charlie sends me a message. And by the way, you can see we got a lot of correspondence back and forth here. He sends me a message. And, oh, before I do that, let me go to the message. Well, nope. Gosh, where is it? Oh, maybe this is the girl that does it. I'm sorry. Yeah, is it? Yeah, here we go, right here. Let me play a little clip of this here for you. We're going to talk about this weapon in just a moment here, and hopefully she's not showing Charlie's shot. I'll have to be very careful. Let me just kind of play it so I make sure. Yeah, she takes where and I don't know if she saw this herself, just like we did or not, but she's taken the Israeli-made corner shot weapon. This was made back, I think, in the year 2000, if I remember right. Let's look and see what she says. Listen to what she says here. And I'll see if I can get her actual video from Colin. I'll post her video link in here too.
I just go into my phone with the original.
Oh, sorry, I got her slowed down. Let me pick her back up to regular speed.
Video. I'm going to edit. I'm going to show you what I think is the pew that pewed Charlie. Okay, so this is the object right here. All right. This part right here would be the handle, and this part right here ejects the casing after the shot is fired. All right, and this part right here is the barrel. All right, that's big black middle part, I believe, is a video camera. All right, this part right here, right where my finger is, a little, just pay attention. What am I, stop, ah! Right there, right where my finger is, you're going to see something move, like right in there. It's going to come down, and it's going to be right when the shot is fired every single time. It does move. I see it move. It is coming down, and it swivels.
It will move. Again, and that's what I was showing Charlie. I said right after the shot is fired, it almost like it flips up.
You should look them up. They're remote triggered, and they have video attached to them, and it can be set off from a phone.
All right, now let me show you a little bit more about that particular weapon right there. This video here tells you a little bit more about the weapon. And by the way, this thing can be equipped with an infrared scope. And I'm going to speed this one up because I don't want to get... Okay, so we're sped up a little bit. Notice what you can do. You can actually put a Glock handgun. There are several different guns can go in there. Glock is very common. And when you turn this thing, when you break it to that 90-degree angle, which is what I believe they did, then you watch the camera screen. That's what allows you to see what the gun is shooting at. You can put an infrared laser scope on this. It's designed to mount it with an infrared laser scope. And so they can see that. You can see an infrared laser scope when you're using a display monitor screen. You can't see it with your naked eye, but you can see it with the display monitor screen, just like it can reflect out of Frank's out of his iPhone. An iPhone screen will reflect that 700 to 1,000 nanometer light wave. Normally it's between 800 to 850 nanometers, but they do say that the infrared scope range between 700 to 1,000 nanometers, depending on what they have that thing set at. But here's the odd thing, right? When you look at this, watch how this gun kind of configures.
And de-escalate the situation verbally before ever even having to take a shot. Here's how it works. It consists of two main parts. These two parts bend by a hinge in the middle at an approximate 60-degree angle to allow for the operator to shoot around corners and barriers from a concealed position using a camera system to see where the gun is pointed.
All right, so you see where the gun is pointed. Now, the other thing is, too, the Glock that's sitting in there, once it's clasped into there, when you flip that thing up like this here, underneath, I should say, right when you have it flipped, let's say this is like that, and it's flipped up underneath there, you now have the ejection part of the gun caught between where the barrel is sticking through and maybe that little flap of the tent. Maybe the tent's kind of like this, kind of pushed out because they've got that barrel pushed in there just enough. But now it's allowing the ejection for the shell casing to fall through, and they probably did not consider that. So when they put that gun in there, they fired that thing, but they didn't consider the fact that the casing is going to fall to the inside of the tent. They never expected that their shell casing was going to be visual to everyone else that's standing around watching this. So when Colin picked that up the other day, and he catches that shell casing falling down, right? Here we go. We're going to pick that up again. By the way, that's where it closes up at. That's that part that I'd show. We were sitting there back and forth, and Colin was looking at it on his side. I was looking on my side. So just slow it down and look at it. There goes that shell casing. See it right there? Perfect shell casing. And it does not, I mean, granted, that particular weapon can use, I think, a 223 type of round as well, but I do believe it was a 9mm, but I think it's an Israeli 9mm plus P. Why? Because we're going to get into that a little bit too, because there's a doctor that Colin told me about that did an amazing job on this, and he believed it was a high power rifle because of all the energy that goes into his neck and then causes that expansion, which blew his necklace off of his neck. But that plus P that's made by Israel does the exact same thing. We're going to look at that in a moment. So I do believe it is still a 9mm. And the fact, if you've got that push just enough in the flap of that tent, you could do that. Now, some people are going to say, well, Steve, gosh, how could they do that? You know, you would think that the view is being blocked, right? You'd think that the view is being blocked. And maybe this is where I get this here at. Let me just double check. Yeah, here we go. You know, how could they get in there and not be seen? Well, if the security is controlling everything, and the guy is up there and it's kind of a little bit dark anyway, and then you got a guy here standing here with a big old camera on one side, and you got in another view, you got somebody over there on that side there, and then you got that big old concrete pillar behind you to block the view there. And then you got that air vent pipe that comes out in between there, which might give you a little bit more stability to stand on. Plus, they had all those boxes up against the back end of this tent here. Sure does give a very easy way to conceal somebody, especially with a corner gun that looks more like a weird looking box. Doesn't even really look like a gun. And even this guy right here, the security guy right here, this guy here, watch what he does. At first, when that gun does go off, he starts looking over to the left as if he thought the shot was from the left. See? But that guy right there, the camera guy, turns right around. Huh. If Charlie just got shot there, what the heck is he turning around looking at? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Makes you wonder. Then you got all these handoffs and stuff that seem to be quite suspicious. I agree. They do. Right? Now, let's go back. And if that doesn't beat all, the other thing that I considered as well is, as everybody's already noted, the cleanup that's going on, right? The cleanup that's happening there, you just can't figure it out, right? They concrete the entire ground in. There's that pillar, there's that air vent coming out because there's something underground there. But then this guy happens to capture this crew down there. And not only did they pour the concrete on the ground, but they're working on the ceiling. Well, let's back up. Why would you be working on the ceiling? Right? Well, at the back of the tent was right there. And you were standing, and of course, the tent in one place, you can see it comes as high as that building right there. Could it have been that there was a blow-by? Could it have been that the blow-by in there caused something to hit there that they just wanted to cover up? I mean, I don't know. It just seems odd that that part of the ceiling is being remudded. And it is. If you want to look at that, I'll just show you here. It's actually being mudded over. That's what they're doing. You know, crime scene gone down the toilet. You never treat a crime scene the way they've treated this crime scene, especially with a man being accused to be guilty. Now, here we go. Here, this is what Colin sent me as well. Dr. Chris Martinson from Peak Prosperity just dropped the best breakdown he said I've seen yet using ballistics and physics. Right. And I'm going to show you some ballistics and physics as well on this, but he does do an amazingly good job. He does not believe that Tyler shot Charlie, but he does believe that Tyler did, in fact, not Tyler, but that Charlie was shot from Charlie's right side. Okay, but let's look at some of the ballistics that he uses in this video.
Exceedingly low. Here's another gentleman who did it again. This time he got 31 inches of penetration, even like there's water on the lens down here, because it also went all the way through and busted these water bottles at the end. He probably didn't mix his gel up to be quite as stiff as the other guy, but we have that to go by. And so the conclusion here is the chance that Charlie's neck stopped a 30-06 round, even the most, let me put it this way, the least energetic of all of them that you could actually buy off the shelf, the 150 grain normal whitetail, it's not a possible thing. So now we can actually explain, though, that there was a bullet and it did stop in Charlie's body. And this took a lot of investigating to get to, and I'm not trying to.
Now, I disagree that the bullet stopped in his body, and I know he does still think it's a high-powered round, and I want to show you why, and that's going to be this right here.
Takes a picture. Now, the problem is that this event that happened to Charlie where he got shot, capturing that exact moment of impact, is, well, the odds are against it, but it happened. And so I'm really glad it did, because it actually solves the case. So a lot of people speculating, oh my gosh, look at all this. There's a huge energetic event, and we're going to walk through this. So I have a very different take from this gentleman and a lot of other folks, but let's talk about it. This is the video, fairly high quality. As far as these things go, it was shot from pretty far back. This is a still from that video right before Charlie got shot. Here's where that camera was located, way up here. Again, remember I talked about that prow, the promontory? This camera is right at the corner of the prow, and it's pointed all the way down. By the way, a little foreshadowing. We're going to be looking at cowboy hat guy and red shirt guy a little later for some other reasons. Now, here's what happened. This is immediately before the shot. This is that first frame he's talking about. And this is evidence of what we call a high-speed cavitation event, severe overpressure. This is what happens when a high-speed round enters a human body, a deer, ballistic gel. It's all the same. And so this cavitation event is what we're going to discuss here. So before we go there, let's talk about what that is. Some of my favorite shooters out there.
Now, the plus P makes a round. Generally, it travels at about 1,150 feet a second. But they've also got one that goes at 1,330 feet a second, and it has a devastating signature. And fragmentation is through the roof. All right, but there's one other thing that Dr. Chris says here, and I want to try to find it for you real quick. And this is, okay, let me just play the gel for you, though, so you can see what it is.
But it still is very instructive, and they did a great job shooting this with an ultra-high-speed camera, and it looks like this. That's what happens when a bullet, oh, you see that flash of the light from the recovery when it collapses back on?
That would have knocked Charlie clean out of the seat. So I disagree with it being that much velocity. Velocity, yes, enough to expand his neck and everything. Yes, I agree with Dr. Chris on that. But that's why, even from all the years of hunting and everything, you know, when I would shoot a deer, I used a 308 and I used a very high impact round and literally would cause deer to turn somersaults. That's what a high impact round will do. And I've used a 30-06 as well, but to me the 308 had more velocity even than the 30-06. But there's something else, and he talks about that's what caused the chain around his neck to break. I agree with him 100%. I think that Chris, like Colin said, he did probably one of the best videos there were. He also dispelled this idea, which is what I suggested originally when I thought it was the guy in behind Frank, which later I was able to see it was not. I did agree with him that this was definitely not the weapon either. So he was right on that. I agree with him on those theories there because one, two, the phone it'd have to be a semi-automatic. If you remember the sound signature video I did, clearly you can hear the ejection of a shell of a semi-automatic weapon, and it's also got an echo chamber. All right, now let me get to the part though where he's going to talk about. He's showing different types of bullets, the ballistics, what they would do, etc. But there's one that he shows, and this is what's really important, is when Charlie clenches his fist in that moment of impact, and that's so important because Charlie clearly, let me see, we may be getting close to it.
It went from sitting there before the shot to after the shot. You can see all that expansion of just everything. His skin, though, in particular, is expanding wildly. That is consistent with something inside his body creating a lot of pressure, pushing his body out. It's not consistent with an explosion from the outside, as some people have speculated. This is full evidence that we had an overpressure cavitation event. So how did that happen? How did that bullet come to dump all of its energy in Charlie's body? So it had a chance of hitting.
And by the way, the reason why it does that is because,
and at a 43 degree
is because you have to remember the Israelis designed the most devastating ever bullet you could imagine. And I could not even get a gel shot of their bullet. But doctors that have testified to just how unbelievable the velocity is from those bullets were just unbelievable. Now, keep it in mind, too, you are in a building that is nothing but buildings all around. Charlie, the echo chamber alone that causes is unreal. I think maybe it must be back further at the beginning here. Let me see if I can find it there. I really wanted to find this part where, here it is right here. Let me play this part here. This is where he talks about what it does based on around the stem of the brain, causing that clenched fist movement that Charlie does. He said that cannot be faked.
Lateral height standpoint. We can also tell that this is from the shot that everybody saw from up front. I'm not going to show any blood or gore in here, but this is actually just 4 frames. So if frame 0 is before he gets shot, he's shot. Frame 2, frame 3, frame 4. This is frames 3 and 4. We can already see him in this pugilist pose. That's where his hand is already curled like this. That means that he's had some kind of very traumatic injury to the midbrain level. It was an instant death. So after traumatic brain injury, it's called decorticate posturing. We also call it the pugilist pose because people, if they fall back and hit their head and they get really harmed, they'll come up in what looks like a boxing pose, but it's not like this. Their hands are actually usually flexed in a little. So this is an abnormal involuntary posture characterized by rigid extension of the legs, flexion of the arms toward the chest with clenched fists, and inward rotation of the wrists, often resembling a defensive boxing stance. It typically indicates severe damage to the cerebral hemispheres or midbrain, is a sign of a poor prognosis. As soon as I saw this, that the day of the shooting, when he tipped and went over like that with that decorticate posturing, I knew that it was a very...
And one of the other theories that I had when I was looking at the entries, if you remember, I also believe that on this side of his head, it appeared to be like a blood splatter, and it wasn't anything to do with his necklace or anything like that. I zoomed in on the frames extremely close, what appeared to be a little blood splatter coming out. Anytime a human, and I've seen people shot, unfortunately, I've had to witness that in life, there is a small blood splatter that goes back on point of entry. Brain, not as much, but it will. And the exit, of course, is where you have your heavy bleeding, unless there is a lot of internal cavity bleeding that happens. All right. But here's where I disagree. And that may be because Dr. Chris is not aware of the Israeli made round that is such a high velocity type of round. This guy, he's using the 9x19, which is the 9 millimeter round that a Glock can shoot as well. He does use it with a gun that can shoot like that, but he happens to have it in a little tiny rifle type thing there. And he's fixing to shoot this XP, and I'm going to show you the one that he's going to shoot is this particular round here, which is an XP round. It reminds me of when I worked with law enforcement many years ago, back in the early 80s. We had what we called a silver tip round. I remember one day they'd shot a guy 5 times. I went with the guy to the operating room to collect the evidence out of him. It did the most unbelievable damage. You want to talk about velocity coming out and expansion, and then in some cases it just maintained because the flesh could not go back in. The guy survived, but he was shot 5 times. Well, this round did the exact same thing in his video that he does here. And I'm going to show you exactly what this round does. It is a 9 millimeter round. It's a JHP, which is like the Israeli made XP bullet. But watch what it does, and this would definitely cause the type of expansion without knocking Charlie completely out of the chair. The 30-06 would have knocked him completely out of the chair. But let's look at this. And we'll speed that up just a touch. I really, in a way, don't want to speed it up, but maybe we'll slow it down instead. Let's try that. Watch.
Velocity was 1,338 feet per second.
That is extremely fast for a 9 millimeter. They generally run 1150, right? Watch what he shows you this thing does in slow motion. You see the shock to that gel? All right. I'll just put him at normal. I don't think there's really that big of an issue with this here. Let me back it up. Let's play it again.
But there's our wound cavity right there.
Oops,
we have, here's a 7.2-inch barrel Evo. Bear gel again as well. Velocity was 1,338 feet per second.
Watch it.
So it looks like at that velocity, that's too much for this particular 115 grain jacket at hollow point. I don't know if you can see or not.
Notice the fragmentation of this bullet all the way through. Just like in the case of a silver tip, the outer casing just shreds everywhere. And it just shreds flesh in every direction. When we were in the surgery room on the silver tips there, it took the surgeon forever to find all the fragmentation pieces in this guy's body. And he turns around and looked at me, he says, "What in the world did you shoot the guy with?" I said, "I didn't shoot him. I was just here because I was there." So at any rate, and of course the bullet went all the way through the entire cone, went all the way out the other side, and the tip of the lead was still intact when it came out the other side. It actually penetrated, come all the way out, which would have been the same thing with Charlie. They saw a bullet flying out, but in the process, it left all the fragmentation inside of him as it went through. That could have easily, one fragment could have hit the spinal cord. It could have hit the lower part of his brain. If it did enter in at the closer to the base of the skull there instead of the neck on the bottom side there, again, you would have had instant death. You would have had that instant clinching, as Dr. Chris pointed out as well. So it's something that I wanted you to be able to see, to know that it's not just exactly what we always think it is. And there was that girl's video right there. I didn't know I had it right there at that point there. Oh, I think I did. So we played that already. So this is some of the information I wanted to be able to share with you. And let me see here. Oh, yeah, this one here is another one that I thought was important. This person here actually films the site there where Charlie Kirk, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk there, uh, right after he was shot, not long afterwards there. And let's see here. Yeah, see, it's all grassy area. Now, they didn't concrete it in, though. It did look like they just put a bunch of like stepping stones in there, and I don't know why they would have done that, right? But as he goes in, he is going to be able to get. All right, this is what they've moved some stuff already from here, but this is where I was talking about possibly the shooter could have stood, and they had both sides blocked off. No one was allowed back there except for who they wanted back there. And but he does come around and he's going to see, there it is right there. This part you just cannot fake. Charlie's blood is all over the stand there where his chair was at. um, and at this point, let me go see if I can back up and see there. Yeah, okay, the camera is still there at that time, but again, it's not going to be sitting there filming the image of that on the ground there after they've already concluded this. I couldn't remember if that was the case or not. Um, and and again, like I showed you here, this to me they had both sides. And if you look, there's another image over here. That side's blocked off as well. So it had been easy for someone to stage that area and no one really see what's going on. So I'm Steve Banoon. Hopefully, we can do some justice for Charlie here. Unfortunately, I think Tyler Robinson is the guy they want to pin this on, make this go away. And I think there is sufficient evidence already out there by many other people, including ourselves, that have questioned why Charlie was shot, why he was killed. And I think if you just take the time, if you want to go, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. Israeli News Live, our YouTube channel there, and you can look at that. Also, too, don't forget our Patreon channel. We'll be loading another video later tonight on Patreon as well. But I have released a video on there. It's also, you can order it one time only if you choose to do so. I reveal information our government has done that I have never brought out publicly before. It's definitely worth your time to look at that for sure. I do think, though, that you should go look at these videos that we have done recently, though, on Charlie's assassination. Charlie Kirk's assassin, was he hiding in a bush? That is debunked. But I think one of the important ones that I did was sound signature pinpoints Charlie Kirk's shooter. And that is, we were able to determine when we did this video here that whoever filmed that particular footage was within 36 feet of the shooter. And that was through AI analysis, doing 8 different sound signatures that I used. And oddly enough, if that shot was taken there from the tent, he would have been within 36 feet of the shooter. And it also clearly picks up the sound of the, you can hear the mechanical sound of a firearm. So that just goes to show you just how close he really was. Also, the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk captured is when I talked about Project Constitution. And by the way, he also did an amazing job. I show his video there where he shows that mic. He also used to wear the same mic that Charlie wore on his T-shirt. He wanted you to see how that works. And he did an amazing job in that video about that. And who is the real assassin of Charlie Kirk? Different videos we've done thus far, but I think this is going to wrap it up for us on this case here. And hopefully, somewhere along the way, this man will get justice. Stephen Banoon with Israeli News Live. Also, our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org. Thank you for your support and thank you for following our broadcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Click that notification bell. Doubt YouTube will ever send you a notification, but it'd still be nice to do that. And if you're not, if you think you're subscribed, double check, make sure you are. They unsubscribe people faster than they can subscribe. Good evening.